O hidden light, shining in every creature.
O hidden light, shining in every creature.
O hidden love, embracing all in oneness.
O hidden love, embracing all in oneness.
May each who feels himself as one with Thee,
may each who feels himself as one with Thee,
know he is also one with every other.
know he is also one with every other.
Just observe silence for a moment. Thank you. Today the speaker is Shekhar Agnihotrī. He will continue the second session, that is letter number 49, chronological letter number 20. Just over to Shekharji.
Thank you, sir. Good evening to everyone. Welcome again in the today's session, study session. And today again we will be taking, as you can see, letter number 20 as per the chronological sequence in the book by Vicente Hauchin. This letter was received on August 5, 1881, while Epicynet was traveling on the way to Shimla. And the last time we saw, there were a lot of information about the persons and the things and the intentions of A.O. Hume and Epicynet. Master was trying to tell them many things. And there were many questions of Epicynet which he was trying to answer in this one letter. So that's why this letter is quite long. And in the end part of the last session, it was then that we start coming to the occult side of the letter. Although there are all the time and everywhere in all the letters, the pearls of wisdom and occult laws and knowledge are spread, but in this letter we see coming towards the end or the second half, a lot of valuable information, especially for the aspirants of this path, the theosophists, or for that matter any person who reads this. A lot of valuable information, if we assimilate it and implement it, is given in this letter. And the last part was, when we were about to end, that I will be reading and explaining where necessary, because this part is very simple, not very complicated, but we'll go step by step, and I'll be reading and explaining where necessary. So just to take up brief in the last part of the last session, that there is a common mistake in people, that these Mahatmas or adepts, they intentionally don't tell things, or the natural laws or the secrets, nature secrets, and the powers or the latent powers in nature and in man, that they don't tell intentionally. But that is what Master is telling, it's a common mistake. And why is it a mistake? That until and unless he is saying the neophyte or the aspirant attains to that condition necessary to that degree of illumination, nor if not all, but most of the secrets are incommunicable. Like until and unless our state of consciousness is at that point to receive, to understand, to realize those truths, no matter even the God himself, or I mean incarnate God, can come in front of us, still we will not understand. Krishna was there in front of Arjuna also, who saw his Vishwarupa, and Krishna was also in front of Duryodhana. But both had different approach, different state of consciousness. So even if the Lord himself will come in front of us and show himself to us. If we are not in that state of mind, if we are not at that state of consciousness, we will not be able to understand it. So that is what is the biggest limitation. That's what Master is telling, that why this knowledge is, it's not secret, but it's only given to those who are ready to receive it. And the most important point was the receptivity must be equal to the desire to instruct. The illumination must come from within. That is, masters are willing to instruct. They are actually more than willing to instruct. We say that if you take one step towards God, God will take 100 steps or 1,000 steps towards you. But that one step has to be taken by us with full conviction. And we all know that C.W. Leadbeater was having doubt that how does this brotherhood or masters or elder brothers, they find people, because they are in a certain place, on a geographical place in earth, and there are billions of people. So then Master K.H. took him to, for a fraction of time, short fraction of time on a Buddhic level, and from there he showed, what do you see? And what he saw was, there were, like, as you can see from the top of the mountain, there are valleys. In the valley, you see lights shining in different places. So those were like the causal bodies of the people, individuals, and wherever there is some bright shining, that automatically attracts the attention of any one of the brotherhood. And that's how they are actually more than willing to help us, because the reason for that will come in the later part of this letter, when he tells why they are more than willing to instruct us. But the receptivity must be equal. We should be also ready to receive that. We should be as much passionate about learning about those truths and those laws of nature, which will lead us to the further state of consciousness. And then he says, till then, no matter what we do any discussions, lectures, penance, but nothing will happen. These are all the means leading us to an end. So in the end, he said, fasting, meditation, chastity of thought, word, deed, silent period, that is noble silence, utter unselfishness of intention, and incense of fumigation. Everybody knows all this, but it is when the people do this, it's not the end doing it, that fasting is the end or meditation is the end. No, these are the means to end, which lead us to that state of consciousness when we are ready to receive. That's what J. Krishnamurti is telling all the time, or that we must be free from all the conditionings, then only that Chitta Vritti Nirodh will happen, and in that silence, that knowledge, the transfer of knowledge can be done. Now we come to this part today, what we are starting, that all these things that were mentioned before, he says that there are so many things given in the scriptures, in the spiritual literature all over the world. Somebody says this is correct, this is, somebody likes Bhagavad Gita, somebody likes Sankhya, somebody likes yoga, somebody likes Quran or different thing. But whatever is the method, he is saying that it depends on the individual temperament, to suit each individual temperament. And of course, it depends on the experiment the person, the aspirant does on himself under the watchful care of his tutor or guru. This is a very important thing to understand, that as in Theosophy we study that everyone is unique. And that's why if we have given a careful thought, there is no set of discipline or fixed meditation even that is applied for everyone. Because yes, there is a guidance, there is a path on which if we walk, there will be a concentration, and then further on, it is everyone's own individual journey. And that is why, considering that theosophical tenet, that everyone has that divinity, the spark within, that itself will guide. And the tutor, what he's mentioned here, under the watchful care of his tutor or guru. This tutor, this guru can be from outside and can be from inside, can be a book or can be one's higher self or from inside or in the form of the person learns something. So this is very important to understand. But he's also saying that such is in fact part of his course of discipline. And his guru or initiator, if this is the external guru or initiator, he can assist him with his experience and willpower, but cannot do more until the last and supreme initiation, which is said that one has to take oneself, and which is also sometimes called passing through the dark night of the soul. And why the master is telling this, and why is it important? Because dark night of the soul is mentioned that it is a state of consciousness, just like, it's not like Avicii, but just like that, where the feeling is of that you are completely alone, no support, no help, that even of your imagined guru or God or family, or nobody is there to help the soul. In that moment, some who holds on to it and of their past sadhana, they hold on, they pass. Some who do not, they fall back, and only to cross that later. But why is it important? Why this has to go through dark night of the soul? Because it is only after this point, once it is crossed successfully, real self-reliance comes. Because if in that moment of time, if the aspirant is given, who is although a very advanced aspirant, if it is he or she is given help from outside, from any outside agency whatsoever, even a small help, we say tinke ki madad, like a help of a doobte ko tinke ka sahara, even if of the blade of grass is there to help, what will happen? That blade of grass will become God for that aspirant. Why? Because that blade of grass saved me. And that will stop, that will put a barrier in me to realize that I myself am God in essence. That is why that supreme and final initiation has to be taken by oneself, and many have passed on and many have fallen back, but only to try again. So that is very important thing to understand. And it is not that this dark night or this feeling comes only at the end. When we go through, when all of us are moving through that path, there are moments, I think, that come in people's life when suddenly depression will come over you. It is nothing, but it is that stage, but in a very little degree that a person is experiencing. So when we learn to get over these little depressions, little frustrations, failures, then when we overcome all this, we'll gather that strength that will come over, and when we have developed so much self-reliance, then only we'll be able to cross that dark night of the soul or the supreme initiation. Next thing is very important and very interesting to see. What he says is, everybody wants to have a guru, and some guru, especially in physical body, to guide me, to show me the path. So, you know, I am under direct guidance or something like that. But he is saying very few people understand or imagine the degree of inconvenience, or even not inconvenience. He is saying suffering or harm to himself. To whom? to the guru, to the adept. The said initiator submits to for the sake of his pupil. Imagine that sacrifice of the adept. We think an adept is like a Superman, and whatever image we have of Superman or Superwoman or superhuman, and just on the turn of a ball or just anything, everything and anything is possible for them. That's what the image we might carry. If not, it's good, but many of the times we carry that image just as we carry the image of God, that God is like beyond logic. He can do anything, she can do anything or everything. But here Master is telling that very few imagine the degree of Guru that he puts himself for the sake of the pupil. Why? Because, and that is also the reason we will understand why it is such a difficult and long testing period before any adept takes up a disciple. We read in the books Masters and the Path that there is first is lay disciple, and then probation, and then after probation the son of the master, and then this initiate he becomes or something like that. So there is why, and this can take years. Why? Because of this, what we are going to see, that the physical, moral and intellectual conditions of the aspirant and the adepts are alike very much. Why? Because the master, if he wants to, it is, what I understand it is like, if you put magnet near the iron filings, it will attract and it will magnetize that particles also. So master brings the disciple in the influence of his aura, and to bring in that, he has to be in the same physical, moral or intellectual conditions, or what is said here, that in each case the instructor has to adapt his conditions to those of pupil, so to be in the harmony. And we can imagine how much strain, the word is used, how much strain would be there. For to achieve success, we have to bring ourselves into full rapport with the subject under training. If we imagine ourselves living in a palace for our whole life, and at the end, suppose after 40-50 years living in a palace, suddenly due to something, the person goes bankrupt or whatever, he is forced to live in a small 6x6 room, 6 feet by 6 feet room. What would be the state of mind of that person? I mean, I'm talking in a normal sense, not bringing any adept or disciple. Just think like a normal person, to have a comparison that adept with such a large or vast sphere of consciousness, or even universal consciousness, he has to adapt to a disciple's consciousness, which is still limited. And the greater the powers of the adept, the less he is in sympathy with the natures of the profane. Profane means the person who is like, we can see, who is not a reverent person, or who is not into the spiritual practice, or a person of their behavior is quite worldly. And why is he saying that? Because even if A.P. Sinnett, A.O. Hume and all these people are showing a lot of interest, but they have not changed much their lifestyle. He was still taking alcohol, so the magnetic effect of those in his aura, even those smoking, even those were okay. What Master was saying even worse is the prejudices and conditionings that they carry in their mind. That is the more bigger and difficult obstruction to clear, rather than these pranic, the negative influences of alcohol or meat eating or something like that. That's what he's telling, that if the adept is greater the powers, less is he in sympathy. And why? Because the aspirants, we go to them saturated with the emanations of the outside world. Outside world means the animals' emanations of our selfish, brutal crowd that we so dread, what he's saying. And that's why we will also understand that why such people, why such evolved human beings, superhuman beings, choose to live in such places. Because there the vibrations are still not polluted by our majority of humanity, which done our work. And he is saying the more purer the adept has become, the more difficult this self-imposed task. Nobody has forced the adept to take the disciple. He does it completely. Excuse me, sir, just give me 1 minute. I think my laptop has lost the power. I'll be just back in a minute.
No problem, I just pause it.
No, can you switch on? Okay, till then I'll continue without the PowerPoint. So that's what, are you able to hear me, sir?
Yes.
Okay. So
I will resume the moment you start.
Okay, sir. You can resume. I think that PowerPoint laptop is having some problem, so I'll just go by the text, simple text only. Okay. So yeah. So that's what he's saying, that the greater the powers of the adept, the less is more it is difficult for him.
Just raise your face a little. It is.
Okay.
But that is all right.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So then the next point, what Master is saying, that one is this reason. Another is that knowledge can only be communicated gradually. And some of the highest secrets, if actually formulated even in your well-prepared ear, might sound to you as gibberish. This again, he's saying that, as in the last part also, that it is not something like a handbook that can be printed and given to everybody and everybody will receive. If that was possible, it would have been done long back. But it is always communicated gradually. And if we see around ourselves in nature, everything in nature happens gradually. Over a period of time, we use, suppose we do not take a good lifestyle, over a period of time we will develop some disease. Similarly, over a period of time, when we follow a good routine, the results are observed in the positive manner. And now here we are talking of some highest secrets. What he is saying, that even if it is told to us or to you what he's saying to Mr. A.P. Sinnett, it will sound as gibberish. That is, we'll not able to understand what is being said, instead of what A.P. Sinnett said, that absolute trust defies misunderstanding. What A.P. Sinnett was saying, that even if I am not ready, but if I have absolute trust, it defies misunderstanding. That's what his logic was, that if you share with us the secrets or the knowledge, I'll be able to understand. But that's what Master is saying, that it is not sufficient until and unless the person is ready. And this is the real cause of the hesitation of the Master to share. This is also what he's saying, that this is why many times people complain with this reason that no new knowledge is communicated to them. Although they have worked hard for it for 2 years, 3 years, more years, and still they don't get any more information. Many people even say that, why does Masters do not write any more letters to anybody in Theosophical Society or anywhere else? But the question is to be asked, that have we understood everything what has been given till now, that we are asking for further knowledge? But if yes, then for those, Master says that let those who really desire to learn abandon all and come to us, instead of asking or expecting us to go to them. He is very clear in saying that if you really want to learn, abandon all and come to us. But many times this is some, I guess, misunderstood, that it seems that we abandon everything here in the world and go to Tibet or Himalayas for that thing, for getting in touch of the Masters. But he has made very clear in one of the other letters that it is not by going to Tibet or Himalayas that we'll get such knowledge or we'll get to meet them, but actually what he's talking about, our consciousness, that we'll be in the world but not of the world. We'll live here, do all the duties and everything that we have at present as per our karma, but we should not be involved or indulging in all those things. That's what, and keeping all the time this thirst for knowledge in the center. But how is this to be done in your world and atmosphere? The Master says. Obviously, he's saying that in the kind of lifestyle that we lead, we worry over petty things. We are most of the time worried about mundane things. If we continue to think at that level most of the time, how is this possible? Then he answers another thing from A.P. Sinnett. Maybe A.P. Sinnett had written that he might be feeling sad on the morning of 18th on the month. So he said, were you sad on that day? Patience, have patience, my good brother. Something has occurred, though you have preserved no consciousness of that event, but let this rest. It means this is also one indication that many times while we are asleep in the dreams, what we think are dreams are actually the life of our higher ego. Things happen, some instructions are given or some new learning is received, but our physical brain is not yet evolved enough to be impressed by that, and we don't know what it is, but we had that feeling.
Sekharji, just raise your face. It is again coming down. It is.
Okay.
Yes, that is perfect.
So in dreams that happen, but if the brain is not evolved enough, we will not be able to have those impressions. And the similar thing in one another letter, Master has told him that it is impossible under your present health conditions that you should bring back to your physical brain the consciousness of higher planes of existence Yet remember that the sense of magnetic refreshment is no true measure of spiritual benefit, and you may even attain greater spiritual progress while your psychic development appears to stand still. So even if there is no psychic development or nothing of some experiences of that sort, but if we are living our daily life with awareness, that will help more. Then in the same thing he says that why Epicnet is not able to recognize what he has learned, because if even he understands more in the downwards. So he's saying that even though some people like him understands little bit more, but that is lost for want of words and images to fix the floating ideas. Because masters work like that, they send not concrete thoughts but abstract thoughts, and it is then up to us to receive them and to have them in a sort of a form to make some meaning out of it. And the more we are in harmony with those vibrations, easier it is for us to receive them. And why is it that they don't give this knowledge to everyone? Is, he says clearly that to give more knowledge to a person which he is yet fitted to receive is a dangerous experiment. And furthermore, other considerations to restrain me. Why? Because the sudden communication of facts is in many instances fatal not only to the neophyte but to those directly around him. And that we have read in the Mahatma letters elsewhere, that many of the people who were on this path and who were willing, who wanted to have a quick evolution, and sometimes many people who try out Hatha Yoga and without any qualified teacher who wants to have some psychic developments, experiences, they become either mad, diseased, die, or even become a criminal. Why? Because that affects the neural system of the person. So that's what Master is saying, that it is very dangerous to give a person more knowledge than he is fitted to receive. And it is like delivering an infernal machine. That is a machine with having fire, or a loaded revolver into the hands of one who had never seen such a thing. That's what he's comparing. That our case is exactly the same. It's like we are giving the people this knowledge. It is like giving them a loaded revolver. But why they are giving? Because they feel that the time is approaching that we are bound to choose between the triumph of truth or the reign of error or terror. So this is the time that they have to decide. They have to let in few chosen ones into the great secret through secret doctrine, through Isis Unveiled, through other books, through H.P. Blavatsky, whatever knowledge could be given. Why? To either they do this or they allow the infamous shamars to lead Europe's best minds into the most insane and fatal of superstitions, that is spiritualism. Shamars is the word used for the Chauhans of darkness, or the red-capped brothers is the term given to those who follow the left-hand path, meaning the path of materialism. Their existence and aims are essentially selfish and opposed to evolution, and that is why either they let them succeed or tell few of the aspirants the secrets to fight with them. And what he gives an example, analogy is, we do feel as if we were delivering a whole cargo of dynamite into the hands of those we are anxious to see defending themselves against these red-capped brothers of the shadow. That, and spiritualism, we know what was it, and that people were thinking that calling the dead people, the spirits of the dead, getting answers from them, that was the spiritualism from them, which was in turn very dangerous for the people being involved. And that is why they decided to start, at least through Theosophical Society, to bring this knowledge and counteract those spiritualism practices. He asked that, he is asking, where were you going? AP Senate has asked him, where were you going? I don't think that is very much relevant, that Master has replied in a paragraph, because we also have to take the time in consideration. So to return, he says, so on one hand, they have a much needed yet dangerous weapon to the world, and with the other to keep off the shammers. Do you not think we have a right to hesitate, as we never did before? Master is giving him, or trying to convince him, that it is not that we want to keep this knowledge secret, but it is like a dangerous weapon. And what is the dangerous weapon? The knowledge. What he says in the next paragraph. Why? Because the misuse of knowledge by the pupil or the disciple always reacts upon the initiator. Nor do I believe you know yet that in sharing his secrets with another, the adept, by an immutable law, is delaying his own progress to the eternal rest. Now we can imagine how much sacrifice is being done by the Great White Brotherhood, the adepts, who we think that yes, they are there, but what they are saying is that the occult law, that first of all, if they are giving any knowledge, and if that knowledge is being misused by any of the person, then it will always react upon them. So, and not just that, it is delaying their own progress to eternal rest. And now we can imagine how much sacrifice is done by Gautama Buddha when he said that he will not go into nirvana until all the people here are free from sorrow. And even in going deeper, what Master tells, that now I tell you a truer conception of things, that loitering on the way does not conduce to a speedy arrival at journey's end. If we have to go from A to B, we go in a straight line, of course we will reach early. But if we go after 10 steps, we go here and there, then come back, then after 10 steps go here and there, roam about, of course it will delay our journey. And that's what is the same case when an adept or a teacher takes a student. And that is why he says that a price must be paid for everything and every truth by somebody. And in this case, we pay it. So he is very clear about that we are ready to do our part. And he's saying, fear not. I am willing to pay my share, and I am told, so those who put me the question, I will not desert you, I will not leave you, nor will I show myself less sacrificing than the poor mortality, as we know, old lady. That is HPV. So that's what he's saying, that if this was more generally known to candidates for initiation, those who are interested and who want to go through this path, he says that they will be more thankful and patient, as well as less inclined to be irritated. Like, we think we have been meditating or walking on this path for so long, why we are not getting any direct contact or direct information or something more knowledge. That is why if we understand this, we will be less irritated, more patient and thankful for whatever we have got. Then he has said that about Stanton Moses, last time Subralina ji also discussed, And what he predicted that AP Sinet will receive 2 letters from him, because they were trying to get Stanton Moses to understand the reality of all this, what he was calling his guide or master named Imperator. So that's what happened, that after some time he did write letters to AP Sinet, but they were full of unkind remarks, because he cannot be persuaded that plus, or the Imperator, the sign, is a living brother, which was tried to be told to him earlier, but it was failed. Unless, Master says, you convert him to popular exoteric Lamaism, which regards our Byang Chups and Chang Chups, or as disembodied spirits. This words is used for the brothers or the adepts who pass from the body of one great Lama to another. The Chang Chub is an adept who has, by the power of his knowledge and soul enlightenment, become exempt from the curse of unconscious transmigration. Unconscious transmigration means death is no more does not mean anything for him. And he can go from one body to another without losing the consciousness. So at his will and desire, and instead of reincarnating himself only after bodily death, do so and repeatedly during his life if he chooses. This HPB has written that this degree of such power varies greatly. There are 3 types of this power that adepts. The lowest degree of adepts, it would allow that who has been greatly trammeled during his life in his study and in the use of his powers, he can choose after death another body in which he could go on with his interrupted studies, but he would lose in it every remembrance of his previous incarnation. The next degree permits him, in addition to this, the transfer of memory of his past life to his new body also, while the highest degree has hardly any limits in the exercise of that wonderful faculty. And that is sometimes also called or known as avataras or aveshas, though even Buddha keeps doing it as per doctrine of avataras, that he tends to attach himself with different people at different times to give different teachings. And he holds the power of choosing for himself new bodies, these adepts, whether on this or any other planet, and he keeps their old form for the purposes of his own. And all this master is telling him to read in the book Kyuti, which we know it's a series of occult works, which has about 35 volumes with 14 commentaries, and the stanzas of Xian of Secret Doctrine are from this, the Book of Golden Precepts and the Voice of Silence. And then in the end, he says that maybe AP Sinet was asking him that does he often laugh on AP Sinet due to his not understanding these things. So he says, the master says, most decidedly not. It would be very unkind and about as foolish for me to do so. And this gives us a hint that we should never laugh or make fun or look down upon anybody who, due to some reason, is not able to understand what we are trying to say, or what we think we have understood. The person in front is not able to understand as of now. There is no need of becoming irritated or making fun of that person, because we don't know yet the limitations of that person. And also there was a desire in AP Sinet to get a portrait of the master, and in the reply he says that never he had one taken in my whole life, but once he had got one in a ferrotype, that is on a glossy surface print by pressing, when produced in the days of Gaudemus. That is, most likely it is some kind of a European countries. There is a song which is performed at university and high school graduation ceremonies. So at that time he had one, but later on he says he had to rescue it from them, and it was already a little bit damaged. But in the last, he says very important thing, that I dare not promise, for I never break my word. So, but I am not promising you, because if I promise, I have to do it, because I don't break my word, but still I will try. And lastly, he, in the last letter, number 18, he recommended A.P. Sinnett to finish his book with some quotations from Tennyson. So what he was saying, that there were some lines which he picked up in the astral light or from somebody's brain that he remembered, and he says that he never forget what he once see or read, and so much that even he says unconsciously to master himself, he string together the sentences of stray words and phrases before his eyes, which may have been used 100 years ago or will be 100 years hence, which means that the concept of copyright that we use in our physical world is totally absurd. That everything is actually there in Akashic records and astral light. Okay, so just because one person got it first and they have to copyright it, but mostly I think this copyright thing is a Western influence or a Western culture, because if we look at ancient wisdom here, there is no copyright to Vedas, there is no copyright to Upanishads or something like that, or there is no copyright to valuable Yoga Sutras or anything like that, what the scriptures we have. Why? Because it is the property of everyone. And that's what he's saying, although in a joking way, he says that the old lady called me brain pirate and a plagiarist. Old lady means HPB, called him brain pirate. Pirate means who steals or a robber. So brain pirate means who's the person who is stealing your ideas or words or something. Why? Because once master used one full sentences of 5 lines, paragraph, which was later printed in Dr. Wilder's essay on prophetic intuition. So she said that master must have taken it or stolen it from the brain of Dr. Wilder, which he says, I never had a look into the old philosopher's brain cells, got it somewhere in the northern current. It means everything is there in the atmosphere. It all depends upon our level of consciousness. We raise it, we will catch it, and we can use it. So similarly, what he says, that a child can be born bearing the greatest resemblance and features to another person, which may be thousands of miles away. No connection to the mother, never seen by her, but somehow the floating image of that person might have been impressed on the soul memory of the mother, either while sleeping or even awake. And that impression, that image was impressed or reproduced upon the sensitized plate of living flesh. That is the baby which she is carrying. And that's why these things, mysterious things happens. And in the end, although I wanted to share some things, the images through the PowerPoint, but anyway, whatever happens, happens for a reason. In the end, what he says, that all these things can be pardoned, all these mistakes or all these things that Master is saying in his humility can be pardoned in one who remained over 9 days in his stirrups without dismounting. Stirrups are, we know when we climb a horse, there are rakab, and you have to put your one leg on one side and then on the other leg on the other side. So that is called stirrup. Each pair of devices attached to the side of horse saddle. So can we imagine over 9 days he has been continuously traveling, which can give us the amount. We think that being a superhuman, everything is possible, teleportation, they can go from this place to another place in a blink of an eye. But from these letters, we also come to know that things and the occult laws, the working of the brotherhood is not some glamorous fancy thing of our mind, but it is quite different. And he says that from one Lamasari, where he crossed to Horpa territory, in which in our maps is, in our geography maps is said, it is the unexplained regions of Turki tribes, ignorant of the fact that there are no tribes at all, and thence home. And from there he arrived home, and in the end he writes, yes, I am tired and therefore will close. Yours faithfully, KH. And here he ends, and in the end, one last line he said, what I shared in the first time, that in October I will be in Bhutan. I have a favor to ask of you. Try and make friends with Ross Scott. I need him. And with this, this letter ends, and giving us all a valuable, many valuable insights, I hope, and inspiration that everything, the key to evolve or to key for transformation is always the aspirant. The thirst is the key. So with this, I close this discussion, and I have already again taken a lot of time. I request Brother Mahapatra ji or Sister Chandraprabha ji.
Minakhi, she will speak in Hindi. Yes.
नमस्ते, थैंक यू ब्रदर। आज हम लेटर नंबर 49 के कंटिन्यूएशन में ले रहे हैं। कुछ मुख्य पॉइंट्स ऐसे हैं कि मास्टर कहते हैं कि प्रत्येक व्यक्ति के स्वभावानुरूप उसके स्वयं के अनुभव और गुरु के जागरूक देखभाल से होनी चाहिए। मास्टर कहते हैं कि ज्ञान का बोध प्रत्येक व्यक्ति के स्वभावानुरूप उसके स्वयं के अनुभव और गुरु के जागरूक देखभाल से होनी चाहिए। यह उसके अनुशासन का हिस्सा है। उसके सद्गुरु उसे सिर्फ उसके अनुभव और इच्छा शक्ति में सहायता कर सकते हैं। अंतिम और सर्वोच्च दीक्षा मिलने तक वे इससे अधिक सहायता नहीं कर सकते। कुछ ही शिष्य हमारे कष्ट और असुविधा की कल्पना कर सकते हैं। अपने शिष्यों के खातिर इनिशिएटर खुद को कष्ट और हानि पहुंचाते हैं। आकांक्षी और अडेप्ट्स के बीच शारीरिक, नैतिक और बौद्धिक क्षमता में भिन्नता होती है। इसलिए एक प्रशिक्षक को ट्रेनिंग के दौरान शिष्य की स्थिति के अनुकूल स्वयं को ढालना पड़ता है। सफलता पाने के लिए कठिन तनाव से गुजरना पड़ता है। एक अडेप्ट में जितनी अधिक शक्तियां होती है, उतने ही वह भौतिक जगत के स्पंदनों में लिप्त अपवित्रता से दूर होते हैं। यह स्पंदन स्वार्थी, निर्दयी लोगों से निकलते हुए पशुगत उत्सर्जन होते हैं। मास्टर कहते हैं कि वे जितना अधिक भौतिक जगत से दूर रहे और जितने शुद्ध पवित्र बने, उतना ही अधिक मुश्किल उन्हें शिष्य के प्रशिक्षण का कार्य होता है। वे अधिक संवेदनशील होते हैं। आकांक्षियों में ज्ञान को धीमी रफ्तार से ही प्रकट करना चाहिए। उच्चतम रहस्यों को यदि आपके ग्रहणशील कानों के हिसाब से भी बताते हैं, तब भी वह आपको निरर्थक ध्वनि सी सुनाई देगी। असीम विश्वास ही भ्रम को दूर करता है। यही हमारे मितभाषी होने का असल कारण है। इसीलिए लोग अक्सर यह शिकायत करते हैं कि उनके 2-3 साल के परिश्रम पर भी उन्हें कुछ ज्ञान प्राप्त नहीं हुआ। जो वास्तव में सीखने की इच्छा रखते हो, वे हमें उनके स्तर पर जाने की अपेक्षा करने के बजाय वे निम्न स्तर त्याग कर हमारे स्तर पर आए। मास्टर कहते हैं कि जिन विचारों की अभिव्यक्ति के लिए आपके पास कोई बोली नहीं है, उसे मैं कैसे व्यक्त करूं? आपके जैसे अति संवेदनशील और ग्रहणशील लोगों को यदि ज्ञान दिया भी जाता है, तब भी वह कल्पना और शब्दों की अपूर्णता में हो जाता है। मास्टर धीरज रखने को कहते हैं। कोई भी मनुष्य जो अधिक ज्ञान ग्रहण करने के लिए लायक नहीं है, उसे वह ज्ञान देना एक खतरे भरा प्रयोग होगा। तथ्यों के अकस्मात संचारण से सामान्य स्थिति से ऊपर उठना कई बार घातक साबित हुए हैं। सिर्फ आकांक्षियों में ही नहीं, बल्कि उससे भी उच्च स्थिति वालों पर भी ऐसे घातक साबित हुए हैं। मास्टर कहते हैं कि वह समय करीब आ रहा है जो हमें सत्य की विजय या आतंक का राज्य, इनमें किसी एक को चुनने में बाध्य कर रहा है। हमें या तो कुछ चुने हुए लोगों को महान रहस्यों को जानने की अनुमति देनी चाहिए, ना तो यूरोप के बुद्धिजीवियों को घातक अंधविश्वास और अध्यात्मवाद में कुख्यात शमार्स को नेतृत्व करने दे। शिष्यों के द्वारा ज्ञान का दुरुपयोग करना इनिशिएटर पर दुष्प्रभाव डालता है। अपने रहस्यों को दूसरों से साझा करने से अपरिवर्तनीय नियम के तहत अडेप्ट अपने खुद के निर्वाण में विलंब करते हैं। पथ पर धीमी गति से चलकर हमें अपने गंतव्य स्थान तक शीघ्रता से नहीं पहुंच सकते। समस्त बातों के लिए और प्रत्येक सत्य के लिए मोल चुकाना पड़ता है। मास्टर कहते हैं कि इस स्थिति में हम वह मोल चुकाते हैं। वे आश्वासन देते हैं कि वे सीनेट से अंतर नहीं करेंगे। यह ज्ञान इनिशिएशन के कैंडिडेट्स के लिए महत्वपूर्ण साबित होगा। वे अधिक धैर्यवान और कृतज्ञ होंगे, थैंकफुल होंगे। मास्टर कहते हैं कि मैं एस्ट्रल लाइट में बिखरे हुए वाक्यों को चुनना या किसी के दिमाग से और उसे याद रखना एक बार देखा हुआ या पढ़ा हुआ मैं कभी भूलता नहीं। 100 साल पहले या बाद में उपयोग में लाए हुए शब्दों या वाक्य जो मुझे दिखाई देते हैं और जो मेरी नजरों के सामने बिखरे होते हैं, उन्हें मैं जोड़ लेता हूँ। इसी तरह एक बच्चे में हजारों मैल दूर किसी दूसरे व्यक्ति के समान रूप और गुण विशेष हो सकते हैं, जिसका उसकी माता के साथ कोई ताल्लुक न हो या उसने पहले कभी न देखा हो। नींद में या जागते समय उस व्यक्ति की मंडराती प्रतिमा, छवि माता के स्मृति में अंकित होती है और वह उसके संवेदनशील गर्भ में प्रतिकृति हो जाती है। थैंक यू। नमस्ते।
नमस्ते। थैंक यू। Anybody likes to ask any question?
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
शिखर जी से वो मदर का और डॉटर और सन का बिफोर द चाइल्ड इज बॉर्न, वो वाला कॉन्सेप्ट मुझे समझ नहीं आया. कैन यू प्लीज एक्सप्लेन सर?
Okay, it is in relation to what he was saying for himself, that how he writes sometimes these letters, that there are a lot of words and images in the atmosphere, in the astral light.
Shekhar ji, just a minute. Shekhar ji, Nancy, kindly repeat the question again.
Yes, sir. My question was, what is the connection between the images that sir was talking about and about the preconceived connection that a mother may have of a child as an image, and then the child is born of the same shape and size or whatever, the same face? What exactly was sir trying to say? I didn't really get it. So this is the question.
What is he saying, that sometimes a child may be born with a resemblance to quite some extent, and resemblance and features to another person, which may be like thousands and hundreds of miles off, who has no connection to the mother, whom the mother has never seen ever in her life. And I think that is also one of the logics, that when a girl or his would-be mother, she's pregnant, they put a lot of photographs all around, that it is thought that whoever photograph or the like of gods or a person you admire or someone, if you keep looking at them, the baby would be of that, somewhat similar to in that resemblance. But what that also happens, but what master is saying in relation to his process of using those sentences, we'll come to it later, that sometimes the mother may not have seen the person at all in her life, who will be thousands of miles away, but whose floating image was impressed upon her soul memory. Because since we are not able to see all those invisible words, we think we are just here, but so many times in our thoughts we travel all around the world, and our images are traveling in the astral light everywhere, anywhere in the whole world. So maybe in one of those images is impressed upon some pregnant woman during sleep or even waking hours, and that impression was reproduced on the, what master has used the word, sensitized plate of living flesh. That is just like we take a photograph. So since the mother has the baby in the womb, so that image is impressed in the same way that she is trying to make it happen by putting the posters in the room. The same thing actually happens by the image of the person whom she has never seen, but the image is floating in the atmosphere, and that was impressed. So that's how the resemblance come to that person. But why he has brought this issue is the same thing what master has been using or writing the letters. What he says, that he wrote a particular paragraph for which HPB called him a brain pirate or a plagiarist. Plagiarism is like presenting someone else's work or ideas as your own, without or with consent. So, why she said that? Because sometime later, actually she mentions about 3 months later, one Dr. Wilder, he wrote an essay on prophetic intuition. He wrote the same 5 lines what master has written 3 months earlier to HPP. So she said that he has taken those lines from the brain of the brain, but master is saying no, he got it somewhere in the northern current, which means, or from the astral light, which means all these ideas, images, thought forms are floating all around us all the time, positive, negative. And I think it's very easy to understand sometimes that you go at a particular place, the aura or the thought form of that place affects us, it creates an impression on us. This is when we go to a place. But sometimes when these are moving, at that time, suppose I think of a negative thought for someone, it travels. It affects, first of all, me. It affects the person or thing for whom I have thought. And in this movement, it affects all those with whom it comes in contact with. So in such a process, it affects, just like what he said, that image is impressed on some mother's memory, and it is in turn reflected in the child's features and resemblance. That's how it happens. I hope I was able to clarify.
Yes, sir. You cleared my doubt very nicely. Thank you so much. I got the explanation.
Anyone Anyone would like to ask any question?
So
We will close. Sekharji, kindly close with the closing.
okay, let us
Thank you,
close. But
Shikharji. Thank you,
before-
Shikharji. Very nice you explained. Very
Thank you.
nicely you explained. And the common ground of humanity is consciousness. Whatever we add in our consciousness, that goes directly. That is what you explained. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, so much. And before we close, I just want to have an announcement that tomorrow is the 1st May. So here in Adyar, we have Bharat Samaj Puja live on YouTube from TS Adyar at 6 a.m. Kindly visit the TS Adyar YouTube channel to view the puja in the morning. And then in the evening 6 p.m. there is a presentation of about 1 hour. On the YouTube channel also, so kindly attend that also. And with this, let us.
Evening connection is also the same.
Yes,
Evening
sir.
connection is also the same.
Yes, same on TS Adyar YouTube channel, sir.
Okay.
Yes. So
Yes, Sekharji.
let us close our eyes and let us do the prayer for the welfare and also for leading us all from darkness to light, from death to immortality, and for the welfare of everyone. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukh Bhag Bhave. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om.
Thank you, Sekharji, for your nice
Thank you.
speech.
Thank you, sir.
Day after tomorrow, we'll start our program morning session Sunday at 10:30. Not
Okay, sir. Thank you for this opportunity and thank you to everyone for listening. See you.
with this announcement. Okay, we'll meet tomorrow in YouTube, international headquarters, that Bharat Samaj Puja at 6 a.m. through YouTube. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Sekharji.
Okay, sir. Namaskar.
Thank you. Good night to everyone. Good night.